Hello, this is a TBR. We're going to ignore the background because there are things I'm going to change. And I have already filmed this a couple of times, but I actually thought I was going to be sitting up higher. So here's what I thought it was going to look like. So let's go like this. Hi, hello, I am the tiny head down here. So I thought I would be showing you these two shelves here, and I'm not. So we're going to change some things around because those are the two shelves I really want to show. So gonna have to do some rearranging. But for now, I thought we would still film this. I was hoping to have all of this done by this weekend, and I just don't. There's so much. I built 6 shelves. I rearranged all my stuff. I took everything off of 5 shelves, carried those out to the garage, put everything back on, almost everything. I'm still arranging. It's still a mess in here. Still need to vacuum the dog hair that's just been accruing because it's shedding season. So we're a bit chaotic, and that shows with the fact that it's taken me. This is my 4th time trying to film this, and I keep getting a few minutes in going, I don't like that. We're starting over. So hi, here's a Pride TBR. I am historically terrible at themed months, but I do read fairly diversely throughout the year. And I thought, you know what, I have all these things on my TBR that I've been interested in, that I've been wanting to read. Let's group them all together and have a fun month of supporting queer voices. So I have picked a mishmash of queer stories and queer voices, and I am going to be reading those books. They're all things that were already on my TBR, things that I've been interested in. And if you want to go back through any of my wrap-ups, you can see other queer stories that I have recommended throughout even just this year. So if you're interested in more, I have aplenty. Typically sapphic romance and sapphic horror.
For whatever reason I said sapphic romance, I meant sapphic fantasy.
Tend to be the things that I really enjoy, but I do like other stories. So we are going to get into this TBR. I have 2 friends that I want to mention here. One is Maddie's Infinite TBR on Instagram. She called her TBR for this month a menu. And she was like, I'm gonna start calling it a menu. And I was like, oh, I like that. And she was like, because no one can judge us if we don't order every item off the menu. And given the fact that June is going to be a busy month for me, I don't know how many of these I'm actually going to get through, but I like to have options. So the other person is my friend Bookish Drew, who I'm going to be reading this first book with. So I'm going to be reading Cemetery Boys. And I did not remember a whole lot about this. I remembered that it featured a brujo, and I remembered that it was trans, and I remembered that it was YA and was ghosts. And that is pretty much when I just went to go read the synopsis just now. Pretty much what the story is. This boy, Yadriel, who is struggling with his family accepting his gender, decides to summon a ghost of his cousin who was murdered to try to solve the murder or set the ghost free. I'm not sure which one. And he accidentally summons a different murdered person from his high school, and they have to kind of go on this little quest journey thing, and form a friendship. At least it says the longer Yadriel spends with Julian, the less he wants him to leave. So I have the audiobook for this from Libby. This is my first one. I'm about to sneeze. So I picked this one because Drew sent me his list of books that he's going to be reading, and he was like, do any of these interest you for a buddy read? And I was like, here's a couple that I'm interested in. And I was like, well, let's do Cemetery Boys because I've been hearing about that for a while. And YA is hit or miss for me, so I should read it with someone who I know enjoys these types of books typically, though we did have mixed opinions. We kind of not on purpose, we're reading Hell Followed With Us at the same time and talking about it, and Drew liked it a lot better than I did. So who knows what this one's gonna happen. So this one is, let's see who narrates this, because I do want to start trying to mention the audio narrators, so let me pull that up. The audio narrator is Avi Roke. So the next one I'm going to read is also through Libby, and I actually am pushing a physical book to audio for next month, and that is Sorrowland by River Solomon. This is one that I really wanted to read this month. However, everything has gotten away from me, and I got peer pressured / bullied / asked very nicely to join a Locktomb reread, and have been like very much consumed by that. So I pushed off some of my physical books to change everything up. I started reading physical, and I'll get into it in my wrap up, but it's been a lot of fun, and I'm obsessed with like just spewing nonsense into the group chat, and it has been a fun time. So I've pushed this one back, but I do have the audio through Libby. I have heard good things fairly recently about the audio for this. So this is by River Solomon. This follows a young girl who, I read the first chapter of this for like a taste test, and she is intersex but uses she, her pronouns, and she has been raised in a cult and is now giving birth to twins in the woods. And that is kind of all I know, and I don't really want to know the rest of it. I love a cult story. There's like a fungal horror thing in here. River Solomon does very interesting takes on colonialism and gender, and I always find them fascinating. And I think this one adds in some religion, which I always love religious horror for personal reasons. So that is my second audiobook for the month. Let's see who narrates that one. This is narrated by Karen Chilton, is the audio narrator for this. This is 12 hours. I think Cemetery Boys was like 11 or something. So that's 2. What's next? I like how I have to look at this even though I made it today. So, okay. So I really want to read She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is the last in the Sapphic Saffron triad that I need to read. I have read the other 2 in it, which are The Jasmine Throne, and I actually have finished that series now, obsessed, and The Unbroken, which I am caught up and ready for the next one to come out, and also obsessed. So I am hoping to be no less obsessed with She Who Became the Sun. This features Sapphic. There is a Sapphic romantic subplot to this, but it is largely an epic fantasy. That's all I know. I don't want to know anything else. The other ones, I went in knowing nothing. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. So I'm looking forward to She Who Became the Sun. This Shelley Parker Chan is also gender queer and uses they, them pronouns. Anytime I mention the authors in here, it was listed in their bio on their Wikipedia page or in like one of the first 2 or 3 questions in an interview that they did. So I don't want to be referring to authors and as an identity that they themselves have not put out there or has not been listed somewhere like official. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. River Solomon themselves is also intersex and uses they, them, or they pronouns. And then Cemetery Boys, the author, Aidan Thomas, is also a trans author who uses he, they pronouns. So just so you know, the more I say pronouns, the more I'm going to draw in the wrong people, aren't I? It's fine. So let's see. Next audiobook is, I should look at who narrates She Who Became the Sun. Let me pull it up real quick, because that is another audio through Libby. This is narrated by Natalie Naudus, another name I don't recognize either. So, okay, I think I have 2 more. So, She Who Became the Sun will be starting a series. Let's go with a book that will be finishing a series. Is A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martine. It's a sequel to A Memory Called Empire. This is the Tex Kalani series. It's a duology. That reflection is terrible. I apologize. Over here is a little better. So this is a very interesting world that the author has created, where we have in this book a ambassador who is going to another planet to kind of fill in for the gap of the recently deceased ambassador, who may or may not have been murdered. And there's kind of this cool technology here where the population that the ambassador is from, which, gosh, I don't remember. Her name is Mahit. She has this thing implanted called an imago, and it essentially houses the memories of her like previous relative or people who previously held the role. There was another book that it was the previous relatives. It's the people who have previously held her role so that she can like flip through the memories and stuff. I've read a few books with some memory stuff like that this year. I should maybe talk about them because I think they're fantastic. So this is A Desolation Called Peace is the sequel to this book. I read this one physically. I'll be listening to this one on audio. This one is sapphic, and the author, Arcady Martine, has not said anything, but she has said my wife. So we are putting her in the queer umbrella. Let's see who narrates that one. The Tex Kalan series. And maybe if I do audio, I will learn how to pronounce these things, because some of the things in these. This, I believe, is inspired by the Byzantine Empire a little bit, if I remember correctly. And we deal a lot with colonization as well, and politics. I love a political fantasy, and this is just a political fantasy skinned in space, and I really enjoy it. The sequel is narrated by Amy Landon. Okay, one more audiobook, and that is Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wislow. I am excited for this one. This is a sapphic monster book. It is gory and body horror-y and weird. And the author identified as asexual and aromantic in an interview, and he said he was kind of really excited to play with some of the aromantic kind of identity in this book. So I'm interested to see how that kind of plays out. So this, I need a horror. I need some horror. So River Solomon, John Winslow, please come in clutch for me, because I've been just deep in the fantasy trenches. So, and I've been reading some weird horror the end of this month that is not really doing it. So we'll talk about that later. But who narrates Someone You Can Build a Nest In? This is narrated by Carmen Rose, another narrator I have not heard of. So, but I'm looking forward to it. I think that ties up my planned audio. So I have 5 audiobooks, and then I have 4 physical books. So let's get into the physical books. This one still has my price tag on it. I need to take it off, but I'll get to that eventually. So In an Absent Dream, I don't know if this one in particular has any sort of queer representation. However, the series as a whole, The Wayward Children, it does. And Seanan McGuire herself identifies as bisexual. So I have author representation. But this series is the Wayward Children series. This follows a bunch of children in their teens who have gone through a portal and then come back into our world and are struggling to reintegrate to our world and dealing with the grief and the trauma of being kicked out of a place where they felt seen and like they actually belonged. And so we're kind of dealing with a lot of different types of things. This one I read is a standalone in this world, so that'll be interesting, but it's the 4th book. So this is me making progress on a series, which I'm very much looking forward to. So these are quick reads. This is a novella at 204 pages. So this shouldn't take me too long. I did do the most recent 2 on audio. So we'll see, going back to the physical, how much I enjoy it. Maybe I'll grab it on audio if I have a free day. And I feel like I'm ahead enough that I can just grab it. Then my last physical, the other 2 are going to be digital. This is Nona the Ninth. There are no tabs in this one. I've shown you before my Harrow and my Gideon books. It has been a while. Let me just show you real quick. Okay, so let me show you my Gideon book. Are you ready? I've read this book 4 times. Are you ready? You weren't ready, were you? You weren't ready. So I went through, there's so much foreshadowing, and I basically tabbed a bunch of foreshadowing and a bunch of meme references, and now I need to go through and take some out and redo some and make some notes. And this is how far I got in my reread of reading it physically before I switched to the audio, because I just needed some Moira Quirk. I've read Gideon 4 times. I have read Harrow 3 times. I have read Nona only but the once. So we are going to read Nona. We're going to read Nona the Ninth. This book, I can't tell you anything about, because it is the 3rd book in what is supposed to be a quartet. This book is 477 pages, and I'm obsessed. I'm going to try to read it physically, but it will probably end up immersion reading just because Moira Quirk. And the voices that she does for each of the characters actually helps understand scenes so much sometimes. That I just love it. So those are the physical books. Let's talk about the digital books. So first I have First Light, which is the sequel to Night's Edge by Liz Karen. This is a vampire duology set in this really interesting world where vampirism is a disease that can be spread. And we follow our main character, whose name I don't remember at the moment because I read it almost a year ago. She is dealing with some family drama and trauma with her mother and her having kind of an abusive relationship where she ends up being expected to like be the parent or the adult in her mother-daughter relationship because her mom comes down with this virus. And this one is kind of her getting retribution on the man who she believes, and is probably rightfully believes, led to her mother's death. So off we go. This one I have heard is not as good as Night's Edge, but we'll see. This one is sapphic. Have not seen anything whether the author is, so we're just going to leave it at that. But the book itself is sapphic. The first book was as well, and it was also our main character, kind of coming to terms with her sexuality too, and getting to experience that for the first time. And so that was it. Just did a lot of good stuff. So I'm going to be kind of disappointed in this one. I'm probably been told. So moving on. Do I start over? No, I'm not starting over. Okay, the very last book that I am going to be reading, I don't know what order, but the very last on my menu is Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. I do know why. It's because I started the series, and you know what? I'm gonna fucking damn well finish it. That's literally it. That's the tweet. I just need to fucking finish it. So I started this series when the first book came out. I was very, very excited for Godkiller. I was so looking forward to it. The cover is exquisite. The plot sounded interesting. And then the book just fell very flat for me. And it seems like I'm one of the few people. There's a lot of people who really like this. There are quite a few people in my comments of my Reading Godkillers You Don't Have to video that felt the same way as me. And that was kind of gratifying, vindicating. I don't know the word. I felt seen by other people feeling the same way. And I also had a lot of people in the comments who disagreed. One was like basically saying that I was wrong because if so many people love a book, there can't possibly be anything wrong with it. I was like, what an odd thing to say. So I don't like these books that much, but I just feel the need to complete the story. And every time I read one of these books, like, I hope it gets better. And I finished Godkiller hoping it was going to get better because everyone sings its praises. Well, not everyone, but so many people talk about how great it is. And a lot of people loved Sunbringer, the sequel, which I also did a full spoiler vlog on reading Sunbringer. And there's so many cool things you could do in this world, and I feel like they're not getting done. So I want to see, do they actually get done? I think this is the last book. Let's check. Okay, it looks like it's just a 3-book series. So I'm going to be reading it. It turns out it's on Kindle Unlimited. And I did decide to go ahead and get a trial of Kindle Unlimited and then just keep paying for it. But I was able to read the digital copies of Gideon and Harrow through that. So that was helpful. So anyway, I will be reading it hopefully this month. It does feature a bisexual character. The author has said she identified as queer. So we have it fitting into this month. And you know what? If I get enough stuff done this month, we'll get into it, and we'll hope that it finishes out the series more strongly than it started. That can always happen. It can always happen. An author can always improve. The first book did feel really like a entry to the genre, but which I don't mean in like a negative way. I just think, having read so much other different types of fantasy, I was expecting something a little more epic, and I didn't get that, and maybe that's my fault, but that's besides the point, because the point of this video is not a review. So I would like to finish that series this month. So these are my 9 menu items that I can choose from. So we have a good selection here with some physical books, some audiobooks, any one of these that you're excited. The dog just came up to like get some pets, apparently. Any of these that you're excited to see me read, have opinions on, or that you have read and want to shout at me in the comments about, please do. Because I always love it when people shout at me in the comments about books. So, or you can go over to my Instagram and shout at me in my DMs about books, because I always love it when people do that too. So, thanks for hanging out with me, listening to what I'm going to read next month. And let me know if you have any suggestions or opinions, and I'll see you soon with something else.